You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Good afternoon, Ryan Tejas.
Good afternoon on the hottest
friggin' day. It is scorcher here in
Jesus.
Los Angeles, folks. Scorcher, just a scorcher. Thanks for making this podcast yours. If you're here for Brian Baumgartner, I really hope if you really like the interview, you'll give the podcast a chance and subscribe and follow us on our handles and write a review. It really helps the podcast. We're the little podcast that keeps going somehow. Thanks to all the people out there who are supporting the podcast and my lovely patrons. What are the handles here, Ryan?
At Inside of You Pod on Twitter, at Inside of You Podcast on Instagram and Facebook.
That is correct. And just a few shout outs. My good friend Shira Astroff at the Animal Rescue Mission. They rescue, rehab, and find forever homes for abused and neglected animals. Check them out. They're just they're an awesome nonprofit. www.theanimalrescuemission.org if you'd like to donate. Tell them old Rosenbaum sent you. Also, Echoes of Hope for foster youth and foodonfoot.org if you want to support homeless. I'm a part of that organization, and the Ronald McDonald House, of course, got to support. Not a lot going on in the con world until November. I'll be doing that, but just a shout out. My buddy Rob, who's in the band Sunspin with me. Our album's coming out in a month, so keep going to sunspin.com. There'll be merch soon. We've got some cool stuff coming. I believe calendars and mugs. We're going to make some t-shirts. The new album is pretty great. Go to sunspin.com. You could book the band. You could Zoom with the band. Support us. I really appreciate all your help on that. And if you want any cool merch, go to the Inside of You online store. We've got scripts. Smallville scripts signed by yours truly, Lexmas. We've got Smallville pictures. We've got Inside of You pictures, mugs, tumblers. We've got so many cool things. So do that. And if you want to join Patreon to help support the podcast, which so many of you do, it really, truly keeps this podcast going. Go to patreon.com/inside of you, patreon.com/inside of you. And I will give the shout outs to all the top tier patrons at the end of the podcast. So make sure you listen. And that's about it. We got a great guest today. You know him from The Office. What a kind guy. It's my new BFF. I just love this guy. I loved having him on. He was not only funny, but he just kept it real. He's just a sweet, funny, informative guy. Then you enjoy it?
I did. I wasn't there. I missed it. I wish I was there for
Oh,
it.
yeah. Jason was here.
I know.
Jason was here. It was a really great time. I really loved the podcast.
I wish I got to meet him.
Yeah, I think you're going to really love this podcast. And I'm also on his podcast. So after you listen to this, you could listen to me on his. I think he asked me some of the same questions I asked him on purpose. Let's get inside of Brian Baumgartner.
It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
2003.
2003.
Yep.
I bought my first house in LA in 2003.
Really?
Yes.
And?
I bet it was about the same.
And how many years did you live there?
Well, it was small.
Yeah.
So not that long. Not that long. It was, I mean, it did well in a short period of time. Maybe it was 2000. It was probably 2005. But yes. And then I lived east Bronson Canyon for about 10 years.
And you liked it?
I did. Yeah.
But you lived alone, or you had a girlfriend at the time?
Yeah, no, I had a family, and it was great. And then I started having kids and decided that it wasn't for me. So I went to San Diego.
You're another one of these guests that I say occasionally when they come on the podcast that people like you. You're a likable guy. It's just, my friend was at they have these office conventions.
Okay.
You were just there.
Okay. Yes.
Right. And she was there, and she's more into animal rescue. She has the Animal Rescue Mission.
Oh, yes. I met her.
Shira.
Yes. Yes. Who, this is going to be we're recording, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I know we are. This is going to be so embarrassing if she's listening. What did she play on The Office?
I don't remember the role.
Okay.
It was a girlfriend of Rains. Like
Rains?
early on in the show, it was like an episode where she was like the some girls that he was dating. I think she was in high school, or maybe it was.
Oh,
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. It was
Okay.
either Rain or it was Krasinski, but I think it was Rain.
interesting. Okay.
But anyway,
She was there.
She was there. They asked
She
her
had
to
a
come,
dog.
and she's like, "What the hell?"
She had well, they weren't her dogs, but she was helping with the dogs.
Right.
Yes.
So do you go to a lot of these? Because I go to comic conventions, cons, like 8 or 10 times a year. Do you do a lot of these?
So I don't.
You don't.
No, but I more just because I feel like I have to. I'm on the road a lot these days, and so I sort of have to budget the time that I'm away. So like I had not done anything since COVID started, right? So that's already
Nothing. You didn't do anything. That's 3 years. Can you believe it's 3 years?
not, or so like the beginning of the end of 19, beginning of 20, something like that. I did one that was the last one I had done prior to like a week ago.
Right.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Do you like them? I mean, do you like the attention? Do you?
No, that's not
No.
really my thing. Look, I thought it was super cool. And what is amazing about The Office fans is, and I have said, and it is true, like the best gift that I have been given from the show is truly being able to experience from the inside how much the show means to people. I mean, like truly means to people. And it's bizarre because I try to think of myself and translate their love for the show in me for something else. And it's hard for me to find, but what I'm talking about is like people's desire and need to tell me how much the show has meant to them, how much the show meant to them in a really dark time in their lives.
Yeah.
That the show brought them comfort, made them feel better, healed them in some ways. And I mean, military veterans or people who have
Same thing. Yeah.
gone through an incredible loss in their life or a medical condition, and that they want to tell the story. And so do I like it? I mean, it's
Draining.
it's very draining.
It's amazing, but it's also like when everybody's doing it, you're like, you want to give them the attention, you want to give them the love, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted.
Exactly. And I know that sounds like, oh, poor you, having to sit there and listen to people love you. I know it's crazy, but like that, because that was an Office convention.
Right.
I think it was slated to go from 9 to 6.
Yeah.
And I didn't take a lunch break. I did not leave because of the people waiting.
Talk to every last person.
I was there until about 8:15.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing when you connect with someone and they tell you what the show meant to them, and you're surprised. You're like, how could this, something that was just funny and goofy and we had fun and I was getting paid for, how could this mean so much to you? But then when you just try to wrap your head around it, it's a little confusing, but it's also a beautiful thing. And what I meant to say is not that it's like you get drained. It's just like, you do a podcast for an hour.
Right.
You don't want to talk anymore.
Right. Right.
I don't want to do more than an hour with you. It will not go over an hour.
Right.
So imagine you're there for 9 hours of talking to people.
Right.
It's just naturally you're going to be exhausted.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
it does mean a lot to me.
Sure.
It really does. And I think that specifically the show, in a lot of ways, how it was constructed. I've talked a lot about this on my podcast. When I talked to the other cast members that I sat down with, one of the questions that I asked everybody was about the last line of the show and what that meant to them. And clearly Greg Daniels, the creator, wrote the last episode. So he wrote the last line, and the last line goes something like, why did they decide to do a documentary about a paper company? Well, I think it's a great subject. It's about beauty in ordinary things. Isn't that kind of the point? And I think that celebration of the ordinary for The Office, that these people have meaning. Spoiler alert, we weren't like friends, right? Like we weren't like on the cover of Cosmo and doing all of the glamorous stuff. I'm talking about the actors too who were on the show.
Right.
We were a group of ordinary people who were assembled by a great casting director to work together in this place, and that celebration, I think, is what responds to people.
Yeah. Did you you auditioned for The Office, right?
I did.
How many times?
I think it was just twice. It took a long time for a decision to be made, but I think it was just twice. I hadn't done anything at that point.
Nothing.
Well,
you had done theater.
I had
and
done
things
theater.
Like that.
Yes.
Yes.
So I was very, very, very new to Los Angeles. So like I didn't know, Allison Jones had a stable of comedy actors that, she was watching for years at UCB and the Groundlings and all of those places. So I wasn't that. I had to convince them to let them see me. But yeah, I had a lot of experience in theater and character creation.
What about improv? Were you big in improv?
No, I wasn't.
See, that's great because I auditioned for The Office.
Oh, you did?
Way back when.
As for
what year did it start?
Well, so the pilot was shot in 2004.
Right. Yeah, I read for it. I didn't go. It didn't go any further, obviously.
Right.
But
weird.
Weird. I'm here right now talking to you. It didn't go anywhere. But were you surprised? Did they ask you in the audition to do any improvisational pieces, or like did they say, "Hey, just keep going, keep talking"?
Not so much for me in the audition, though I kind of did. They Allison Jones is brilliant. But they had me reading for the role of Stanley.
Right.
And I knew the British version of the show, and I knew this character that they were calling Kevin here was the part for me. So I read, for the producers, Stanley as though it was Kevin.
Really?
Yeah. And I left the room and was like, I don't know how that went. And Allison ran after me and said, "Hey, there's this other role we want you to read." And so then I went back in for Kevin.
Just coldish.
Yeah. She probably said, "Here, take 30 minutes," or
you didn't
whatever.
learn the lines, but you kind of just read off it and things like that.
Yeah.
And then what did Daniels, was he in the room?
Daniels.
Did he just give you a smile
Ben
after?
Silverman.
Was there anything that kind of made you feel like I might have died? I don't know here.
I don't know. I don't remember any of that. I don't remember any specific feedback except a feeling, which I'm sure you've had, which is like when I left, I went, that went well. Like that went, probably at the time, because I was so new, I was probably thought, I got that, right? Now it's more tempered. Now I know enough to know that like, oh, I'm in the mix for sure. And they may choose you as opposed to me, or they may choose, a different color, a different flavor, a different, type person. But at the time I knew that. And I don't know if you ever heard this. It was down to 3. When Steve Carell left the show, Allison Jones was looking through memorabilia for Steve. Like, was there something from his first audition or whatever? And she came to like his party when he was leaving, and she pulled me aside. She was like, "I didn't really find that much for Steve, but I found this. I thought you'd be interested." And this was like a paper. It had been 7-8 years, kind of discolored. I have it in my office now, and it just said Kevin Malone, and it's in my office, but I don't remember the order. It wasn't in order, but it said 1, 2, and 3. Brian Baumgartner, Eric Stone Street, and Jorge Garcia. So at that time, that's before Lost with Jorge. That's before Modern Family with Eric. And there I am. And
wow.
Rainn Wilson always says to me, "Too bad Eric didn't get it, because I'd be much richer now if I had gotten Modern Family." But I think it worked out for everybody.
Wow. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp. I don't know what we do without BetterHelp. I have been lately dealing with a lot of anxiety, and what happens is I hyper focus on all these negative things, Ryan, that keep spiraling, and it's hard to focus. And it exhausts me and gives me anxiety. And these thoughts kind of and I know I shouldn't be thinking all these things. And it's like my mind, I can't put it to rest a lot of times. And, it can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem solving mode. And, especially when you're facing challenges in life. And I know that therapy helps that. Talking to someone and having them talk to you objectively about what works, trained professionals, helps. It just does. Doing it on my own isn't working. It's just not working. If I don't have someone to talk to, I will just continue to spiral. There's no way out. That's how I feel. Do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to talk to somebody.
People always say, well, how'd you get into therapy? It's because I just couldn't solve these problems on my own. I couldn't, you could say you're going to do these things and you're saying, what happens is you just bottle stuff up, folks. We just bottle things up until it becomes very toxic. And our body feels it physiologically. We feel the effects of, pain, depression, anxiety, and it takes a toll on your mind and your body. And that is why I got into therapy. And I'll tell you, a lot of times I have nothing to talk about. And for the first 5 minutes, I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing? And by the end of it, I'm like, thank God I'm talking to somebody. My Lord. Look, if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. Ryan here does BetterHelp. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. A lot of times people are selling things and there's ads you have to read. To me, this is the easiest read ever because it's just something I could talk about forever. And look, BetterHelp is a great place. It's a place to help a lot of people. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/inside today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/inside. Inside of You is brought to you by Shopify. Folks, without Shopify, the merch would be so much more difficult if you wanted to get merch or anything that I sell here on the podcast, and I couldn't do it without Shopify. If you don't know what Shopify is, listen up because it may very well help you in your business, whether it's a small business, whether it's a big business. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business, so startups, upstarts, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online, and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibility. When I first started on Shopify, I had one t-shirt, and now I have like 20 or 30 items. It tells you what items are selling best, how much you're making at the end of the month, which aren't selling well, just how you do from year to year. It's so easy to use. It's the basics, and it does everything for you. And they pay you on time. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Believe me, like I said, this podcast started selling very few things, and now it's a very big success and a part of the podcast, and I need it. Shopify powers millions of businesses from first sale to full scale. Reach customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more.
Gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting of conversion rates, profit margins, and beyond.
More than a store, Shopify grows with you.
This is Possibility, powered by Shopify.
Connect with your customers, drive sales, manage your day-to-day.
Shopify instantly lets you accept all major payment methods.
Supercharge your knowledge, your sales, and your success.
Discover endless possibilities. Shopify is tirelessly reinventing tools of growth for millions of businesses, helping them succeed every day.
Discover inspiration. Shopify believes in liberating commerce for all because entrepreneurship has the power to drive communities forward, and commerce can be a force for good. Go to shopify.com/inside, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/inside right now. Shopify.com/inside. Inside of You is brought to you by Freedom Grooming. Where was Freedom Grooming when I was doing Smallville and I was bald? Ryan. This product is fantastic. At Freedom Grooming, we make the Flex Series electric shaver, which is uniquely designed to flex and contour to the curve of your head for a smoother, faster, and safer shave without the risk of nicks, cuts, irritation, or ingrown hairs. Where were you? Where were you, Freedom Grooming? Now you're here. Ryan, it is the smoothest shave of your life. Flexible blades contour to the shape of your head for a baby smooth shave every time. I know this because my friend Joe tells me, and it works amazing, and I'm sort of jealous of him. Shave 50% more hair in a single stroke compared to traditional razors. Expect shave times of 2 to 3 minutes, not 10 to 15. Never cut yourself shaving again. The Flex Series Safeguard technology means no nicks, no ingrown hairs, no problems. And the Flex Series waterproof design means you can shave in the shower with or without shaving cream, shave wet, or shave dry. Since even the sharpest blades dull with use, Freedom created the Close Shave Plan. With the Close Shave Plan, you'll never run out of fresh, sharp blades delivered to your door every 6 weeks with free shipping. All active Close Shave Plan members are upgraded to a lifetime warranty, and it's completely customizable. Adjust, skip, or cancel your plan anytime. We have over 10,000 5-star reviews. So stop deli slicing your scalp with traditional razors. Try Freedom today, or get it as a gift with your exclusive 20% off by going to freedomgrooming.com/inside. That's freedomgrooming.com/inside. I mean, were there nerves when you were first doing the show and you hadn't done much, like you said, except theater? Do you remember being nervous on set? Do you remember being like, I'm out of my league? How'd that feel?
Yeah, I remember the pilot, and Angela Kinsey and Oscar Nunez and I had a very short scene in the pilot that we were shooting. And, it was shot at the end of the day, and we left thinking, okay, we may get fired. Like,
really?
Like,
there's just not enough to show what you could do.
Yeah, they're just that's exactly right. And so we were like trying to make this meal out of what was a very, very simple exchange that should have been delivered simply. And I think that, looking back, I think it was much more about what happens in pilots, which is just that everybody feels like everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be exactly right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it was much more about that. But at the time, we were just thinking like, how did we just spend an hour and a half on this? Like, whatever, like 3 or 4 line exchange. And we started improvising pretty quickly. And I think we know about it. I think, so what happened was there were characters from the British version, Kevin being one, from Keith was the British character. But Greg Daniels always knew he wanted a larger ensemble here. So like Oscar talks to me a lot about in his audition, he improvised a lot because I think he read for Stanley as well, or read for somebody else, didn't get it. And they were like, but we like this guy. Let's find out who this guy can be. So he did a lot of improv. I think Angela Kinsey as well, which is good because they're incredible improvisers.
Right.
It's weird though now, Michael, because that's what people see me as, is like a comedy improv guy. Right, just on the surface, and that's really not at all what I did. I was like dark theater, dramatic, like horrible characters trying to find some sliver of humanity in the like darkness. But, now it's like, oh, no, you're an improv guy, right?
You're a comedy improv genius.
Exactly.
You were one of the biggest shows ever made.
Right, exactly.
Were you a regular? Did you sign a deal as a regular, or were you a recurring and became a regular?
After the first season, which was only 6 episodes, we were all recurring, except for 4 or 5 guys, or 4 or 5 people,
Right.
and then we were made regulars.
Right. Well, tell me about, you talk about the dark stuff and the theater stuff and all that, but growing up, you grew up in Atlanta?
Atlanta, yeah.
Did you have cool parents? Were they together? Were they
Cool parents, great parents, loving, very loving, very supportive, oddly, of the path. They told me the story later. So I graduated from college, and I started doing theater, and I went and joined a very small theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the first show, my parents, supportive, flew to Minneapolis. They told me that night this story, which was they got into a cab. This was before Uber. They got into a cab from their hotel and gave the address of where the performance was, and the cab driver said, "You don't want to go there."
Oh no!
Yes,
that's where you were doing your theater.
Yes, apparently it was not a great neighborhood, and they were like, "No, I think we do." And it was February, right? And I'm from the South, so like
it's cold.
Intensely
it's
cold weather is not something that my parents or I were comfortable with, and they show up. I think there was a discussion of canceling the performance because I think there were like 12 people in the audience, including my parents, and it was like freezing. And my parents didn't say anything that night, but years later, probably after The Office, they came and said, we had a ride back to the hotel after this, which was like, what the fuck is he doing? He's a smart guy. Why is he doing theater? This is horrible. He's here. Nobody's watching. Like, what is is he doing? To me, they were really supportive and great show, everything. But like between themselves, when they got alone, they were like, oh, he's made a horrible, horrible mistake. He's made a disastrous error.
Did they try to tell you at all during this whole process of you becoming an actor, hey, have you thought of maybe having a backup plan?
There really wasn't much of that. I mean, I decided early, meaning just like everyone goes to college, right? Thinking you're going to major in one thing and you end up majoring in something else. I mean, this is this is like a part of life. And that was not me. I mean, basically from the summer before my senior year of high school, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I was singularly focused on that. So like I went to SMU, which at the time, and I think still, I didn't want to go to like a Juilliard or a Carnegie Mellon. Like I wanted to go to a university. And at the time I believed that SMU was the best conservatory training program in the country that was within a university. Like I came out to USC, and there was Northwestern, and a lot of places that people think about, like Northwestern, people sort of think about theater, or USC, UCLA out here in LA. But SMU to me was the best, and that's where I went. And so I had like a very singularly focused college career, and then beyond, I never sort of wavered.
Were you popular like growing up?
I was never a theater kid. I never. So like I wasn't in a fraternity, but I was hanging out with all the fraternity people at SMU. Yeah.
Did they go see your shows?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Actually.
Really?
Yeah.
And they were supportive.
They were supportive. Yes. Because like I loved sports. So like I wanted to be going to the basketball games and the football games that weren't great, but like I wanted that college experience.
Yeah.
And not just, in fact, I remember getting, because the theater department was insular in a lot of ways, and there was like parties, but they were like the theater parties in somebody's. And I remember getting shit late, junior, senior year. Like, you don't ever go to the theater parties. Like, what, you're just like too good for us, or you're like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, it's not that. I'm spending all day, every day with, all of you. I want
I don't
more.
want to be around you.
I want like, a wider breadth of experience. So yeah, my friends, by and large well, that's not true. I have a lot of friends who are in the theater department still. But I had a lot that was outside for sure.
Inside You is brought to you by Conair. You know what? I hate going to the dry cleaners. I'm flying a lot, Ryan. I go all over the place, and my clothes are always wrinkled. But not anymore, Ryan. No, not anymore. The Conair Turbo Extreme Steam and Iron 2-in-1. It's the most powerful handheld steamer. It's so easy to use and so small. You could pack it in your bag and travel with it, and you never have to worry about wrinkly dinkly clothes. Not anymore. Fast and easy wrinkle removal. Extra large sole plate. Can be used vertical or horizontal. Also works without steam as a dry iron. Advanced heat technology is ready almost instantly and obliterates wrinkles with turbocharged dry steam. 4 settings for delicate to turbo is perfect for all fabrics. Kills 99.9% of all bacteria, sanitizes around the house, and refreshes clothing. Easy to use, great for at home or on the go. To get yours today, go to Amazon and search Conair Turbo Extreme Steam and look for the Steam and Iron 2-in-1. Did you know a fire department responds to a fire every 23 seconds? October is Fire Prevention Month. It's just right around the corner, and it's never too early to start preparing. And we have teamed up with First Alert, the most trusted brand in fire safety, to help protect your whole home and safety you can trust.
Smoke and carbon monoxide alarms help provide an early warning in the event of a home emergency.
Having enough First Alert smoke and carbon monoxide alarms is one of the best things you can do for your home and family. Install alarms on every level and in every bedroom of your home.
Now, once alarms are installed, it is important to maintain them by testing them regularly.
Also, remember, alarms don't last forever and need to be replaced at least every 10 years. They are on duty 24/7. If you cannot remember the last time you replaced your alarm, it is best to replace the unit completely.
Along with alarms, fire extinguishers are essential. Make sure to place fire extinguishers on every level and in common spaces like the kitchen, and know how to use them.
For more information on fire safety products, safety tips, and educational activities you can do at home with your family, visit firstalert.com/fire prevention month. firstalert.com/fire prevention month. The theater department, I don't know if you folks out there listening know, but it's very cliquey, very judgmental. They're thinking everybody's judging them, but really they're judging. I remember being a part of it, and it was just like everybody was out to kill each other.
Yes.
And it was like, oh yeah, what's up? There was a couple guys, a couple little friends that you had, but when you saw those names of who was cast in a play, oh, I saw some looks like, are you fucking kidding me, Rosenbaum? What the fuck is he doing?
Right.
He sucks. Did you experience a lot of that?
Yeah. It was, I never really talked about this, but in truth it is. It was pretty cutthroat-y and it was always very sort of outwardly supportive, and it was a supportive department for sure. But, they were a premier theater training program, and they let in 15, this is a freshman year, 15 actors and 15 others. And they called it theater studies. So that was directors, designers, writers, all of that. And there were 15 actors. By the time we graduated, and there weren't cuts. You weren't like eliminated like a game show. But by the time we were done, I'm guessing there were 6 actors, 7, without counting in my head right now. So, it just like people are like, okay, this is not for me. Right, which is what happens in college all the time. Like you think you're going to major in economics, and then you discover PR or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what do you major in. I don't even know. I could not come up with 2 majors to make that example.
No, it's right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I had a teacher, Professor Dr. Whitney Combs.
Dr.
Whitney Combs. And I remember the first time I took basic techniques of acting my freshman year.
Okay.
Still talking like him. And I'm sitting there in a classroom, and he gets up and goes, if you're here for just an easy elective, please raise your hand. Don't be afraid. Please raise your hand if you're just here for a free, it's an easy elective. Just raise your hand. And I was always a goofy kid. I was like seconds away from lifting my hand up, and I didn't. And then about 7 or 8 people raised their hands. They're like, yeah. And they're like, no, if you'll quickly leave my classroom. They're like, what? No, seriously, get out of my classroom. And he kicked those people who just wanted an easy A or whatever out of the classroom. And then afterwards, he stopped me. Mr. Rosenbaum. And I go, yes. He goes, I was wearing a Mets cap and a Mets jersey. I'm like, I didn't look like a theater kid. I look like a punk. And he's like, do you really want to be here? And I go, yeah. Yeah, I do. I didn't know if I wanted to be there. I was scared shitless. I hadn't auditioned for a theater, for a play then. And he kind of shook his head. It took years. I wanted him to make, I wanted him to like me.
Right.
And eventually I started to do plays and build up the confidence. And he took me aside at the end. And I said, should I go to grad school? And he goes, I think you're ready. I think you should go to New York and give it a shot. And I did. It was one of the few people that really were like, hey, you've got this.
That's incredible.
It was incredible. Did you have someone?
For sure.
Who was the mentor? Who was the person that you remember that goes, they're giving me the confidence?
Dale Moffat.
Dale Moffat.
Dale Moffat. Yeah. He was, for a long time, began to transition out, but was the head of the acting program at SMU. And I mean, the difference in my story was exactly, I'm sure, the same, but because it was a conservatory, you had to be one of those 15 people to be in the class. Right. So there was no, that wasn't an option. And that's what I mean. Like we were in, usually you're going back and forth across campus taking different classes. We just moved en masse from, voice and acting to movement to, theater studies and, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so that was the difference. But yeah, no, he was the one who, I guess what I would say is that I had good instincts, and I had an experience the summer before my senior year of high school where I went to Northwestern actually, and there's like this program, and it's one summer for kids. It's called the Cherub. Have you heard about this? The Cherub program? Oh yeah, at Northwestern. For incoming senior students in high school. And it's intense. Like, I don't know, 6-8 weeks, but it's like theater. And it ended up being akin to my experience in college, but that's when I went, and it was for me like, I'm confident on a stage. I feel like I understand basic, I don't even know what I would think at the time. Like,
and you're only like emotion, 17 or 18?
Yeah, like emotion or whatever. And this was like, oh no, there's like a process for like actually figuring things out and doing the work. I mean, like being an act, like, and that's what opened my brain to it. And so I feel like when I went into SMU, it was all instinct. And then by the time I left, it was like, oh no, okay. So if I'm given a character and I'm reading and beginning to assess like their needs, their wants, what they do to get those things. I mean, basic actor stuff, but being able to deconstruct a role or a play. And if you're having trouble, this moment doesn't make sense to me, being able to figure out what that is, as opposed to kind of skating through it and waiting until the next thing I understand, which I think people do a lot.
Yeah. So you think you can't just go become a great actor based on just your instincts? Do you need
that's
a tough question, right?
It's a really tough question. I think that, for me, and I'm not saying something like revolutionary. I think if you look at my work, for example, like you see it right there, there is, for me, the construction of character is really important, and finding who that person is, and that voice and body and movement and rhythm and pace and all of those things help to make up who that character is I'm creating.
Yeah.
There's just as valuable, Harrison Ford, for example. Harrison Ford is, spoiler alert, I'm looking because he's got a statue
right
right
next to
here.
me.
He's not transformative,
Right.
Right. He's essentially Harrison Ford,
Right.
Like, right. I mean, he's not Brando or, De Niro or, and not that
But
I'm
he's
saying
effective.
that better.
Incredibly
He's incredibly effective, but it's about, does he just have incredible instincts? I don't know. I don't know him personally. I don't know what his process is.
Right.
But, but for me, it's about using all of those tools that I have now to try to completely invent in every way who this character is, how they're the same as I am, and how they're different.
So you're doing all these plays in
Yes.
college, right?
Yes.
And what happens after? Were you aspiring to do film and television, or was it theater, something you just wanted to do for the rest of your life?
No, I was just talking to somebody, actually, Emmanuel Shrieky, on my podcast about this, that for me, it was only theater. That was all it was. And thinking back, because I just had this conversation with her on the podcast, that I don't even, film and television never, it just almost wasn't even something I thought about.
Wow.
Never.
That's
really
crazy.
didn't.
It just seems to me that every actor wants to get an Oscar. Every actor wants to get it's like, I have to admit, like when I was in college, I was watching Tarantino movies and going, I like theater, but man, I want to do movies. I want people to see me. I want.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I don't know. I think for me, that was just, not that it wasn't achievable. It was just not something, it was not the path that I was on, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe I just sort of thought like, oh, that's for later or something. Like, and here's a story I don't think I've ever told. And Harrison Ford, now it's all coming back to Harrison Ford.
Sweet.
I had a friend who I met in Chicago in the Cherub program before my senior year. We stayed friends. And she had moved to LA, and she was actually on a television show. She became very good friends with Callista Flockhart's best friend,
Harrison Ford's wife.
And she invited me to come out to the premiere. You could figure out the date of when this was. I'm going to say it's circa 1999 or 2000.
Okay.
The premiere of, I think, Midsummer Night's Dream. Was she in Midsummer Night's Dream, the movie? I believe it's Midsummer Night's Dream.
I shall forgive you if you're wrong.
It was invited me to the premiere, and I was at the premiere, and my friend lived around Westwood. And so I was staying with her around Westwood, walking through Westwood, going to Coffee Bean for the first time. The weather was amazing, and going to the premiere, and Faye Dunaway was sitting right behind me.
Ooh.
And that for me was like, oh, I like it here. I want to be here now.
Really?
That was it.
That feeling.
It was like, oh no, I belong here. And I grew up in Atlanta, so that was my home. I mean, I was born, raised through high school. That was my home. And I was in, Dallas and then Minneapolis. Like I said, I was kind of based in Minneapolis, and I was traveling around and doing theater in all of these places. I was like a regional theater actor, so I would go where the work was. And, but I never had a home for sure. I never had a home. And I visited here on that trip. And it's such a cliche now, right? It's like, well, yeah, you were at like a humongous premiere. You know, they rented out in Westwood, you know, like an acre of land and turned it into the forest. It was Midsummer Night's Dream, right? Yeah, it was Midsummer Night's Dream. 99. In 99. That's this fucking steel trap of a memory right there. 1999, Midsummer Night's Dream. And so it's like, oh, you're at a premiere and there's Faye Dunaway. Of course you're going to be seduced by it. But I was like, oh no, this is where I need to be. And so it was at that point that I started, I started thinking about just being in Los Angeles. And you know, 4 years later, I finally made it.
Do you ever get starstruck? Besides Faye Dunaway?
I've never seen Faye Dunaway since, by the way. She is awesome. For me, it kind of, you know, I was lucky so early. I mean, first off, I saw Carell turn from one of us to something not, right? I mean, like right at the beginning of the show, just before we'd done 6 episodes and 40-Year-Old Virgin comes out, and like he's literally the biggest comedy star on the planet at that point. I worked with Robin Williams a few times, and so like pretty early I was I was met and introduced, and so that never did it for me. Jack
Nicholson.
Yeah.
When did you meet Jack? Because I've met Jack a few times.
At the Lakers. Out of Lakers.
That's where I met him too.
Yes.
I was in the back room with Jack Nicholson. In that back cigar room.
In the cigar room.
Yes!
That was it.
I was there.
Yes.
And
that was where it was.
Well, I was there and I was sitting there talking to him. And I go, man, it's a shame, you know, they need Shaq to be back in the game because he was injured or something. He was like, yeah, well, you know, it's like if, you know, he starts talking about this and that and everything's fine and we're having a nice conversation about the Lakers and the season. He doesn't miss a game. And all of a sudden this guy comes up to him and goes, hey, Jack, this game isn't as good as it gets, is it? And he goes, if you'll excuse me. And then and I looked at the guy and go, you fuck! I was just talking to Nicholson. You fucked it up. You fucked up my moment with Nicholson. He goes, Jesus, dude. I was so mad.
I know exactly what you were talking about because for me, it was very similar. And in fact, there's in the bowels of Staples Center, by the way, there is a room.
Chairman's room.
There is a room and there is a cigar room within the room. Which is, if you're in the room where it happens, then there's another room that you don't even know that exists for a while.
Yep.
And I was in there. And my buddy was with me at the game. And there's also like very nice bathrooms back there in the chairman's room. And so I said, I'm going to go in and maybe have a little cigar. And my buddy says, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll meet you in there. And it was just me and Jack.
Yeah.
It was just me and Jack. And my buddy later tells me the story. The door into that room is a swinging door. Like it swings both ways, like at a restaurant between the kitchen and the thing. And my buddy describes as like pushing the door, like to walk in full speed, seeing that it's me and Jack, and slowly backing away and shutting the door. And he gave me that moment. He was like, I'm not going to screw this up. I know how he feels about Jack. I'm just going to
What did you say?
I'm just going to back away. It was largely the same. We discussed The Office very briefly, mostly about the Lakers. I want to say this was the bulk of our conversation was about Bynum. Andrew Bynum.
Wow.
Center for the Lakers.
Blast from the past.
Yes. That had some great games and then had some not great games. I believe that was where the conversation was focused. And we bid each other goodbye. And then we sort of did a hello several other times after that. I used to go quite a bit to the Lakers games as well. But yeah, for me, that is it. I mean, I think
for me, probably that was it too. Just meeting Jack Nicholson because he's got to be my favorite of all time.
Yeah, and it's because
movie star. He's a movie star.
That is right. He is and I don't mean any disrespect to like someone like, and so I'm not speaking of this person specifically, but like there's like, I guess now it would be like Tom Cruise-ish, like movie star, but there was something about Jack that he was so good and so transformative in so many different roles. The Shining and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Chinatown. And all of these movies that he was just so amazing in. And at the same time, he was Jack. Like before there was the one name thing existed, he was just that. And I read something, this is years ago, so I'm sure I'm getting it wrong, but it was like the director camera shot to Jack at the Oscars. Like somebody had gone through and counted how many times, right? Like the host is on stage or somebody, and they just cut to Jack and, like go to him. And it was like the most cutaway shot in the history of the Oscars by like a gajillion or something. That's scientific. Yeah. So, but there was that and the sunglasses and the courtside at the Lakers game. And yeah,
there's just this feeling of like, whoa, like I think when he's around, it's like everybody's like, wow, that's a star. It's just, what was I going to say about Jack Nicholson? Oh, there's the Shining documentary. Did you ever see the Shining documentary?
I don't think I did.
Stanley Kubrick's daughter, I believe, Vivian Kubrick.
Okay.
Shot this documentary of The Shining. It's like 30 minutes. And it's like Jack brushing his teeth. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if people really want to see this. Is this interesting? I don't know. And then they follow him around as he's walking on set. He's like, all right, here we are. We're going in this room now. And we're, and he's jumping up and down, getting ready for the big, here's Johnny.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. Oh, how could you have not seen that?
I haven't seen that.
You guys got to listen. You have to find it. It's on the Shining extra stuff. It's superb. But that's probably the way. I'm a big horror fan, and The Shining is probably my favorite horror movie of all time.
I think it's mine.
Yeah,
for sure.
What's your favorite line in The Shining?
Oh man,
mine's really weird.
Oh man, here's Johnny comes to mind. I mean, it's so iconic. You just said it though, so that's why I'm thinking that I should say something else.
No, here's Johnny.
No, I literally am like I should say something else. Yeah, there's the moment
on the stairs.
Well, there's the moment on the stairs, but it's not even him, but it's the bartender,
Lloyd.
It's like, you have always been here, right? Like,
that's the caretaker, Grady.
Grady. Yes.
Grady in the bathroom.
Grady. Yes.
You're the caretaker.
Yes, you've always, yeah,
you've always been the caretaker. Yes,
I didn't quote that line well, but that line still just shivers.
Just
what the fuck is going on?
I think my favorite is when she goes up to Jack, Shelley Duvall's character. What's her name?
Wendy.
She goes, Jack, someone's at the hotel. Someone's here at the hotel. They heard Danny. And then he turns around and looks at her and goes, you out of your fucking mind? That's probably my favorite moment because it's so non sequitur, just weird.
No, I know my favorite moment, which isn't a line, is when the camera comes around and you see all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy millions of times on that typewriter.
Boy, was that something.
That's my favorite moment.
Whether you see me typing, whether you see me working, whether you don't see me working.
You do a really good Jack. I know that you know this.
I mean, I don't do it a lot, but I do love Nicholson. Thank you. But it was it was an opportunity. I mean, we were talking about Nicholson. We were talking Jack.
I know.
You have a book. First of all, you're a New York Times bestseller.
I mean,
that seems like an impossible task. Your book, Welcome to Dunder Mifflin, The Ultimate Oral History of the Office, was a bestseller.
Yes.
How many copies did you sell? What do you have to, how many to be a bestseller?
I don't know, but quite a lot.
Jeez, were you like surprised?
Yes, in part. I mean, I think a lot of times, as we were talking about earlier, if you build it, they will come, meaning the Office fans. But the book launched on, because I was in Scranton. I went to Scranton and signed copies of the book in Scranton. And I'm going to say that was a Thursday or Friday evening. The book launched on a Tuesday, and I started getting text messages that the book was no longer available at Amazon. This is like 3 days later. And I was like, oh.
How many sales do you have for Amazon to text you that this book is no longer available?
I know. I don't know. But which was, it had been like months of it not being available, right? Like it's like pre-sale, available this date. And then so quickly after it, after launching, for it to say that, I was like, oh no, get them more books. Where are and it's not quick to reprint books, by the way.
No,
it's not. There were some more somewhere, but like Amazon's entire allotment, which I think Amazon is huge. You send a lot of books to Amazon. It was gone. It was a lot of fun. The whole experience of getting the gang back together and telling that story. And for me, it was truly, it was based on a question, because there was some conversation about doing a podcast and telling the story of the show and how do we do that? And, I've never really been into like presentational type stuff, or like, let me explain to you why we or us were so brilliant. But I kind of referred to this before, but we were the number one show on NBC for most of the time that we were on. So 10 years, 9 seasons. The first 2, we struggled mightily. But for most of the time we were on, but we were never we never thought of ourselves. And I know that our collective experience was in the NBC, pantheon of these shows. So like Seinfeld or Cheers or Friends, for sure. We were never that. We were like a solid hit right now for NBC that doesn't have a lot else on the air. That's truly how we were treated by NBC. And that's what we were. And then 3-4 years ago now, streaming numbers start coming out, and my experience walking through an airport or being out in public suddenly is way more intense than it ever even was back when we were on Thursday nights every.
Wow.
And that was the entire experience of the book, of starting the podcast, was really based on that question, which was why? Why is this happening?
Because it is one of the biggest hits in the history of television.
Well, now more people are watching it now than any other show in television. Like, think about that.
That's insane.
So, you still have the cover, Stranger Things, or, whatever the hit streaming show of the moment is. More people are watching The Office than are watching those shows. Still.
That's remarkable.
I know it's insane. And so that for me was it, which is why is this happening? What, and can we go back and can we deconstruct decisions that were made that maybe have made it
the show that it is?
Yeah. And not just survive this long, but actually now be thriving again.
Right.
Like, Michael, we were not making a show for kids. This was not a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, we were like, oh, if people who work in an office can maybe relate to it, then we'll be okay. Like, we'll stay on the air.
Right.
But like the kids are watching it, it's crazy.
That is just insane. The new book, you're releasing your second book, A Seriously Good Chili Cookbook.
Yes.
In September. I didn't know you're like your character, you're a chili aficionado.
I'm a chili aficionado. Yes, the character is, and has become a big meme, GIF.
GIF.
Yeah. And, it's just become one of the moments from the show. And so I think the first couple of times was really like, let me do it for the gram, right? Like, I'm going to make some chili and take a couple pictures and this will be fun.
Right.
And then I do enjoy cooking. I love to cook. It is.
I would love to taste your chili. I mean,
don't just even say it like that.
I mean, you, but you have compiled, it says 177 of the world's best chili recipes from celebrity chefs, restaurant owners, chili cook-off winners, dedicated fans, and of course, himself.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So I have my own recipe. They have the recipe from the show or their best guess of it. But no, so a year-ish ago, I went, this is a thing that exists. And not only does it exist, it's like, I should have done my research. It's like 60 years, give or take a couple of years. The World Championship Chili Cook-Off exists in this country, sponsored by the International Chili Society. It's been going around 50 to 60 years. And there's a competition for like the world champion. And so everyone who is there is a winner, right? Like everyone has won.
Yeah.
Their local, their firehouse, the firefighters have won. There's, their region, their state, their whatever. And there's like 100 of, there's a field and there's just people cooking chili everywhere. And you're like tasting it and trying to evaluate it. And I judged it. And it was a crazy experience, but so much fun. And the passion that people have for, I think because it takes time. And I think in a lot of ways, the longer it takes, the better it. And so it becomes very communal. It becomes very family, whether that's like your actual family or like your friends or whatever, the people who enjoy it too. It's something you share.
I love it.
There's the culture of it. I just love, and there's like beans or no beans or, green
Meatless
or meatless and meat and turkey and this.
It's a million ways you can do it.
Yeah, well, there's at least 177. 177 ways.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I had so much fun putting that together and coming out September 13th.
A seriously good chili cookbook. Let me just ask you, is your chili, would you think it would compete with some of the top chili makers in the world?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I mean, I don't mess around.
How long does it take you to make a bowl of chili?
Well, typically you make a pot of it, not just a bowl.
Sorry.
Michael. Can you imagine? Just you're
10
literally
hours for a bowl of chili.
You're literally just measuring out enough meat for one bowl. I would say, I mean, there's a certain point in time where I do think like the longer you let it go, for my recipe, the longer you let it go, just the better it is if you have more time. So like ideally I'm starting late morning and gonna do it in the evening and just let it get all up in there and the flavors. And
if you ever invite me to where you live for some chili, I would go.
Okay.
If you ever have a party, a chili party, or
chili
whatever,
party,
chili gathering,
okay,
please. This is called. By the way, the podcast, Off the Beat Podcast.
Yes.
How long have you been doing this?
So I have been doing a podcast or another now. We're at about 3 years. And what I mean by that is I started with the Office folks, which were really taken from the interviews that for that book. But like I had Carell for 3 hours. I had Greg Daniels for, I think, 4.5 hours or whatever. And I sat down and we recorded all these conversations. And then we released those interviews, and not just them, but like the chairman of NBC and designers on the show and writers and directors. And that was really about, again, trying to figure out or at least come up with some answers to why the show is so popular now.
Right.
But there's a limited number of people who worked on The Office, and I just started loving doing it. And so I went to iHeart and just said, like, I want to keep going. And they're like, go. And so now it's really, my goal is sort of the same. It's just now much more individual, which is about, it's called Off the Beat because a director and theater director that I used to work with that told me that all great comedy happens off the beat, that there's an expected rhythm which you could call the sitcom rhythm. But when something truly surprises you, when something changes what that expected pattern is, that's when it's truly special. And so for me, those are the moments that I'm trying to find. We're talking to Emmy winners and, athletes now who have, won MVPs and Super Bowls or whatever. But I'm really interested in those moments that happened that started them on a certain trajectory, that changed. That changed where they are, and what they become.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Off the Beat podcast.
Thank you.
Listen to it, folks. I
Please.
got some really loyal listeners. They will listen.
Please.
And if you ever need a guest, man.
All right.
I'm around.
You're in.
I would do it.
You're in.
I have a sort of an interesting story.
Yes.
I think. I don't know.
Clearly.
This is called Shit Talking with Brian Baumgartner. This is my top tier patrons get to ask questions.
Okay.
This is rapid fire. This is the end of the podcast coming up.
Rapid fire. So I should answer as quickly as I can?
You can, but if you want to elaborate, you feel free. You don't have to rush through it. You're like, I really need to get out of here.
I'm trying to understand the rules.
Yeah, there's no rules really. It's like, you could rapidly speak or you could take a moment.
Okay.
But go to patreon.com/inside of you to join Patreon, become the family. I'll send you a message after. I appreciate the support for the show. It really, really helps the podcast. All right. Chris R. I know you just released a chili cookbook, which we just talked about.
Yes.
So I got to know, which recipe is your favorite? I mean, how are we going to give that?
I'll say two. One, mine, obviously. Two, I would try. I'm not going to pull her name right now, but last year's winner of the homestyle division, which basically means with beans, in the preliminary rounds, I tasted her chili, passed it into the finals as my favorite, and it ended up winning the entire thing. So one, I was pretty proud of myself for being able to that other people agreed with me.
Yeah.
And two, it's absolutely delicious. So the homestyle winner, I know it's there. I apologize for not remembering her name, but from 2021, the ICS World Championship Chili Cook-Off. Try that one for sure.
Wow. Emily S., is there anything you would change about Kevin, your character in The Office, if they gave you a chance? Anything?
I wish he'd had a longer term romantic relationship.
Fair enough. Sophie M., do you have any fun stories from your episode on Screen Queens?
So that's from Sophie?
That's from Sophie.
Sophie, thank you so much for the question. Sophie, I don't really.
Sophie.
I don't really. I mean, I had a good time. I know that. It was fun. It was entertaining. Those guys can be really good, and I don't really have a memory. I'm sorry.
Leanne, what or who inspires you?
Jack. There, we've learned that.
Jack inspires me.
Honestly, I still love creating characters. I still love that, and getting a script, and particularly now being tasked with a character that I haven't done before, or I haven't done to the masses before, maybe something I worked on in theater, and it's been a number of years, and being able to go back into it and do that really inspires me and gets me really excited.
Maya P., what is the best game of golf you've ever played?
I shot 72 once. I was the course was a par 71, and I was under par on the front, and my brain couldn't even comprehend that was the case. And so I thought that I was already one over. I lipped out a putt, and then only later realized that if that had gone, I would have been even. But wow. 72, that's my best. Have you ever dealt with any like anxiety or depression or issues like that? You seem kind of a happy guy who has it together. But has there ever been ruts in your life where you couldn't get it going? I've been very lucky in that regard. I mean, look, everybody from time to time has difficult times. That's not something that I've particularly struggled with. No, I'm not a good person to speak to it. I guess I'm just lucky.
What do you do to stay kind of like your mind to stay
golf for real?
You golf a lot.
I mean, I try. I mean, to play a lot, but that for me is and the reason why is because I am in some ways a micromanager, right? Like in terms of my business and, I'm always looking at every angle and my brain will sort of like spin like that. When I play golf, I'm thinking of really, truly for those 4-ish hours, I'm thinking of one thing, which is trying to get this ball in the hole.
Your mind doesn't wander,
and
really.
It really doesn't. And I also, to the frustration of people, my manager, I tell him I'm checking out. Like, I mean, I tell him where I'm going,
right? As
opposed to like trying to hide it or whatever, because I really try, unless there's something urgently happening, to not look at my phone. Like I put it away, don't look at it.
And you think that helps significantly?
100. It helps me.
I think it would help everyone.
100%.
I think to shut your phone off every once in a while and just go do something and forget about shit. That's.
I mean, for a lot of people, it's hiking, right, or something like that. That takes less time generally than golf, and I know that it takes a lot of time. But I am by nature. I played sports growing up. I'm competitive, and so that kind of drives me.
Yeah.
To do, it's like, no, I want to play better. I want to do better. I want to hit a better shot. And you just, every shot, there's a potential for greatness and also
and shittiness.
horror and shittiness. Yes. Self-loathing and all that. But at least it's just about this game. And at the end, that is, I will say, I will be incredibly competitive and really in it. And 5 minutes after
you're over it.
I'm totally over it. Like, yeah, I don't go home
healthy.
And like,
healthy mind.
Yeah.
The book coming out is a seriously good chili cookbook. Comes out in September. The podcast is Off the Beat Podcast. Brian Baumgartner, this has been a real treat for me.
Dude, so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks for allowing me to be inside of you today.
I enjoyed it.
Me too.
Yeah.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed that one. I don't know how you couldn't have. It was just a damn good interview, wasn't it? I hope you liked it. Brian's he's a mensch, and I love doing his podcast. And thank you, Brian, for coming on the show. I appreciate you. It was a long drive from wherever the hell you live. We can't say because he doesn't want anybody to know where he lives.
But not close.
You know that I live in the Hollywood Hills of California. Just a big shout out to the other podcast that I'm doing now with Tom Welling, and Ryan here is a part of that.
Yep.
And that's called Talkville. And we air every Wednesday. We watch every episode of Smallville, and then we critique it the next day. So you will hear what we think of the episodes. There's a hotline. There's a bunch of cool stuff. There's some merch coming out, and exciting stuff. So I appreciate that. And if you want to support that podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Talkville and support that one. So that's about it. I think it's time to do what we always do. It's the reading of the top tier. By the way, I had my mom in town.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How was that?
Wasn't easy. Was not easy. I love my mother, but she's, I don't know, she fell a couple of times.
Ugh.
And it was hard. I mean, I want to see her healthy and happy, and that's what I want. But I wouldn't say it was the most fun that I've ever had. My anxiety was high.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the shout outs. Nancy D, Leah S, Sarah V, Little Lisa, Yukiko, Jill,
E,
Brian,
H,
Nico,
P,
Robert,
C, W,
P,
P,
B,
B,
Jason W, Sophie M, Kristen K, Raj C, Joshua D, CJP, Jennifer N, Stacy L, Jamal
F.
Correct. Janelle B, Kimberly E, Mike E, Eldon Supremo, 99 more, Ramira Santiago M, Chad W, Leanne P, Janine R, Maya
P,
Maddie,
S,
Belinda,
N.
Nice. Chris H, Dave H, Sheila G, Brad D, Ray H, Tabitha T, Tom N, Liliana A, Talia M, Betsy D. And by the way, I want to say thank you for everybody. I see a lot of names on here that are also supporting Talkville, and it means the world to me. So thank you for supporting not only Inside You, but the new podcast as well. It means a lot to me and Tom. Chad L, Marion, Dan N, Big Stevie,
W.
Angel,
M.
Rhiannon,
C.
Corey,
L.
K,
Damn.
Dev,
Nexon.
Michelle,
K.
A, Jeremy C, Andy T, Gavinator, David C, John B, Brandy D, Camille S, The Chief, Joey M, Design OTG, Eugene and Leah, Nikki G, Corey, Katie B, Heather L, Jake B, Mel S, Orlando C, Caroline R, Christine S, Sarah S, Eric H, Shane R, Emma, Shane R, Emma,
R.
Jeremy V, Andrew M, Zatoichi, Zatoichi 77, Oracle, Chris R, Michael F, Karina N, Michelle D, Amanda R, Amanda S, Jen B, and Kevin E. Those are the top tier patrons. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for listening to the podcast every week. I'll keep going if you guys keep going. From myself, Michael Rosenbaum, here in the Hollywood Hills of California.
Hollywood Hills. I'm Ryan Tez.
We'll wave to the camera. We love you. Be good to yourselves, folks. Be good to yourselves, and we'll see you back here for the next episode of Inside of You. All right. Talk soon.